hunger for glory, feeds the desire, the courage to look for a challenge, to feed your ambitions. To reach for greatness. To become the champion of champions.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the CCT channel. My name is Freddie or Grimmy Rana, and I'm joined by B-Dog or Brandon for something a little bit different. You guys are used to maybe us commentating on your favorite games, but here we are today, and we are doing our first ever episode of the official podcast. And personally, I cannot wait. We've got so many interesting topics that we have ahead of us. But firstly, Brandon, how are you doing today?
Yeah, look, it is a very different thing we are producing here, but I'm very excited to be a part of it, and especially being alongside you for the first one. I guess we can have a quick little overview between ourselves about what we've got coming up. Firstly, we're going to talk just kind of about what's happening in the Champions of Champions tour all throughout 2022. Then we're going to take a look a little bit more in depth at the players that have already been performing here within the circuit. Then we're going to take a look at the CSGO reshuffle just in general, not just inside CCT, but in the overarching realms of Counter-Strike. And then we've got an interview as well with a special guest. And I guess, well, he's going to be joining us throughout this entire podcast to start with. So let's bring him in. We've got Beastik on the line here with us. So hopefully we can see him on the screen in just a moment. Beastik, welcome in. Thank you for taking your time here today. How are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm fine, thank you.
I guess firstly, do you want to give yourself a rundown of who you are for if anyone doesn't know like what team you play for, what role you are? Do you want to just give like a brief summary of who you are?
Okay, my name is Beastik and I'm playing for Team Sinners and I'm IGL.
Yeah, very nice. I think there's actually not too much to go on about that. But yeah, I guess we go straight on. We can give an overview of what we're going to be talking about first. So you were talking about that wrap up. So I think we can delve straight into that wrap up and just talking about the different regions. And I think a lot of people, Brandon, you can agree, is there's a lot of Counter-Strike. Some people get quite confused. So basically, what we're going to do today is just go through the 7 regions. I think it's the 5 regions that's been played, and we're going to go and talk about who's done well and who's been like at the top of the circuit. So obviously with like South America, you have Fluxo as a top. That's an obvious one. But firstly, what's currently being played as well. So there's a lot of Counter-Strike still going on for the rest of the year. So this has been recorded during the Central Europe Series number 4, and that's actually going to be the final series in the online circuit before the LAN finals next February. And if anyone's also confused about that, whenever you get placements in the playoffs, you get points, and then those points, whoever's top 3 within your region will go through to the LAN finals, and then there's invited teams there as well. So that's going to be really interesting. And I think in Central Europe, we can quickly actually pull up the graphics right now because it's contested. It's whoever wins this will probably automatically be going to the finals, right?
Yeah, so look, this is a little bit more of a visual aid that can help out. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, it says, look, the top 3 teams after the 4 online series will qualify for that first studio final. At the moment, at the top of the graphic, we've got Forza up at the top, and then joint second is MIBR and Copenhagen Flames. How the points and the rankings really work is if you win the Central Europe, you get 150 points, and then if you participate in any other of the online series and you place well within the playoffs, that's kind of, you get points allocated to your team. So Force, not only have they won one of the Central Europe series, they've also participated in the playoffs of another one, which is why they've got 190 points compared to MIBR and Copenhagen Flames.
Yeah, and basically, I think this is one of the regions that your team actually played in, and you made you made playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, in one of them.
Yeah, I think we made playoffs twice. I'm not sure, but we made at least once.
Yeah, we can see you there. You're in number 8 at the moment, so you're definitely on the board. And yeah, I guess if we just look in general, just an overview of this entire graphic. Are there any Beastik? I feel like for you, is there any surprises in here when you look at the top 10 teams? Any teams that you wouldn't expect to be maybe as highly placed or even in the top 10 at all?
No, I don't think I expected for us to be on the top, because these guys play most of these tournaments, and they when they see like opportunity to get to the land, they take it. So it's obvious for them. I'm surprised to see MIBR there, because I didn't expect them to play like Central Europe tournament, and
Yeah,
then
well,
it's
I think their entire facility is based within Central Europe, and they play out of there. So I think that's the justification behind why they are in the regional
yeah,
rankings.
but it seems funny to see
Yeah, of
MIBR in
course.
Europe. But overall, I
Yeah.
think I think the leaderboard looks okay. Unlucky for us that we won't make it to the land, but never mind.
Yeah, I guess there's always the other regions as well. Like I assume you'll be participating in some of the other ones. And I think for me, a team that I'm impressed with would definitely be Honorous because if I'm not mistaken, they went back to back closed qualifiers to playoffs. And I'm pretty sure they got like top 8 in one of them as well. So they've been a roster where they've got this guy called Raiko. If no one doesn't know him, he's like this Polish. I know for a lot of people, seem like his Polish superstar, and he's definitely someone that is really turning a lot of heads. And then they've got Grasshog as the IGL, and he's been someone that was contending for other teams definitely within Poland. But it's a roster that they were notoriously, I think, not very good. They had struggling for like a year and a bit with Taz and Raiko on that roster, and then now they've kind of like reformed it, bringing in new players, and they've been doing genuinely really well. And I guess Beastik, have you played against Honorous at all? Like, what is your opinions on a team like this?
Yeah, I think we played against them like 3 weeks ago, around one month ago, and it was I was really impressed by the way they played, because they had some good setup rounds and stuff as a CTs as well, and we had like really tough game against them as well, because they were so proactive on the map and stuff. And I think Sobol is the craziest guy on the lineup, to be honest. We had so much like problems on him against him on Vertigo, I think. So like they are really good, and they are still growing.
Yeah, there's plenty more room for opportunity for Honorous moving forward into 2023. So that kind of concludes the Central Europe rankings. Let's move on to one of the other ones. If we could pull up, I feel like it would be quite good to just talk about North Europe, really, because you've got Copenhagen Flames there in third. But then if you move over to North Europe, they're right down at the bottom. And then but they are still here. It's multiple teams competing in multiple regions, and you've got plenty of opportunities. Ikla is there as well, who also was on that leaderboard for Central Europe. We saw that the North Europe has just concluded. The big surprise for me, and one that I'm keen to get your opinions on, everyone, is Harvu, because I was so impressed with just how they were performing as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much you've played them, Beastic, but for me, Harvu was a roster where like I always saw Spargo as their AWPer, who was definitely struggling to find impact, and you had like these two players, X7 and Ariel, who kind of just like used to be playing at the top level Counter Strike and just are not anymore. And then out of nowhere, they're now beating everyone, and I'm here like, sorry, how has this happened? Like they went from I remember I casted them when they beat OG, and I went into that and I was like, I don't think Harvu will win this, and they kind of swept OG. Like it was a really decisive game, and now they seem to be genuinely just beating everyone. And I don't know if this is going to be a flash in the pan or if they're going to genuinely start becoming a solid team, because everyone was saying when they went to the Eliza Masters and Espu, like they didn't win a game, but every single game they played against, apart from against Sprout, was double digits or an overtime loss. So it's like they didn't embarrass themselves. And I don't know if you've played them at all in officials or practiced them, but I would assume you've obviously seen them play because they've just beat OG, Force, Heat, like all these teams. What is your opinions on them as well?
I've been watching them like for a while now, and since they made the roster change with Zen and Dotto coming up, and I feel like at the start when they like made the change, they didn't know what to do much, and I feel like they were like different team, and they were like finding themselves. But I feel like I don't know who is calling there, to be honest. If it's Dotto, Zen, or whatever, I don't know. But they feel like they're gonna be a really good team and stable, like tier two, coming to the like some tier one tournaments sometimes, because they always have some like different approaches to the rounds, and still they do still something new, and they don't like let you know what they are doing. So they are really good at that, and they have so much experience. So I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, another team that I was incredibly impressed with, not only in North Europe, but just watching throughout my time on CCT, is the Prospects. I feel like they've got a very
Yeah.
good base. They, if people don't know too much about this entire Prospects lineup, they had an original one for We Play Academy League. Then they kept Spooky and revamped their entire roster. They brought in the core of Lil Mix and Alex as well as the IGL. They've recently just made another change, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah,
They've
they've
actually got
dropped
rid of
Alex.
Alex, right? And they
Yeah,
brought
they
in
replaced him.
with a young ninjas player,
Rolf.
Rolf. Yeah,
And they've changed IGL to someone, I think. I was talking to Beastik. Yeah, Hype is their AWP IGL.
yeah. So that's interesting because again, we don't really have too many AWP IGLs in the European scene. I feel like that's a South America trademark, to be honest. But they've really surprised me. I just wanted to bring them up to the forefront because I've been super impressed with how they've been playing, especially for a team that is so young.
Yeah, this is actually a conversation we've had, Beastik, between me and Brandon, of being like, AWP IGLs, is it good? Is it bad? And I think the general outcome of the conversation is that I think it's good, because I feel like some AWPers sometimes fail to have direction, and they fail to take the initiative to like go for a peak, go for an aggressive play, or like on rotation sometimes. And then Brandon was saying how like, oh, I don't think it's good because you want to be focusing just on your AWP instead of having to focus on the rest of your team. So I don't know if you have an opinion on something like that as well, because it's something that we like to debate back and forth sometimes.
I feel like after the major win, when Outsiders won with Jame being IGL and Opera, we're gonna see it more in the future, to be honest. And it really depends on the playstyle of the Opera. If you have aggressive Opera, I don't think he's even able to be IGL because you have to focus on so many things. If you are
Yeah.
so passive as Jame is, it's obviously doable, but it really depends on the Opera's style. So I think it's doable, but it's really hard, to be honest.
Yeah, because that prospects team, we really like them, Brandon, don't we? Like the first
Yeah,
time we
big
cast
fan.
them, we were like, yeah, they're just like a cool young team who play an interesting style of Counter Strike. Very explosive, I think, as well. I don't know, have you played them much, Beastik?
Yeah, we played, and it was some kind of weird CS, to be honest. Like not the weird CS, but we had some troubles against them on Mirage because they made some like they was doing some weird stuff that we weren't used to, and they caught off guard so many times, and it was really hard to play against them.
Yeah, it's interesting just to kind of see the development of teams progressing forward in the CCT because they're just getting so many opportunities to kind of play at this level, which is really exciting to see in teams like such as Copenhagen Flames and Prospects. They're all just kind of thriving. Another team that we'll see, I imagine, quite consistently in these regional rankings as well will be Tricked. You can see them on the screen there, but they've been playing some
Yeah.
very good CS recently. But that's enough of North Europe. As you can see, the Ents, Entropic, Harvu, they are currently the top three teams, but we've only had one final for North Europe. So we're a long way off the studio event. Let's take a look at South Europe as well, because I'm conscious that we've kind of sat there and, oh, there you go. Copenhagen Flames Tricked up there again. And fours, they're always there. As you said,
They always
Beastik,
just
they're
kind
always
of,
just in the
yeah.
graphic.
Yeah, I think with a team like Copenhagen, I think Tricked and I think we saw Ecolot there as well. If I'm not mistaken, those two teams are the most played in like the last 5 or 6 months, and it kind of shows like they are doing well. I think there's always a worry if a team's playing like 100 maps in the last 3 months that you fall into. I think like it would be the old like SCADA where they used to just feel like they just kind of went on autopilot sometimes in some games, and they'd beat like a Vitality and then would lose to someone quite bad. But Tricked have been doing really well, and we're going to highlight some of their players later because this is a team that they're like a lot of their players are getting taken out in and back and forth by the other team, but by the higher teams in Denmark. So you have like Lucky as a prime example of that, of the fact that their whole roster's just been dismantled because Astralis came cooling. And that's a theme we're going to touch on a little bit in the future as well, talking about like K23, for example, like, and even for Sinners, if a bigger team comes knocking, it's like, you can't really say no. Like if Neofrag gets an offer from OG, you can't sit there and be like, oh, you can't say no to that. But alternate attacks for me, they're the dark horse in this one. It's like they've come out of nowhere, and Panix is having an unbelievable last 3 months. He's someone I hadn't seen play in about 6 months. It's the first time I see him play, 1.9 rating or something like that across the series.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's quite insane. I guess there's no real surprises here apart from Unexpected Spirits
Websters.
performing a little bit higher, yeah. And Webster's as well. I've to be honest, every time I've seen Webster's play, I've been quite impressed with how they've set themselves up. It feels like they are improving each time I've cast them. I casted the game where I think it was in South Europe where they beat Eternal Fire.
Yeah, that was we did that together.
Yeah, and that
It's
was
chaos, man.
That was to be fair, that's not really a good example, but because that was an interesting game of Counter-Strike to watch. But the fact is that they got it over the line and they managed to deliver. And I like that we kind of got these teams that are competing and already contesting with the likes of your Spirit, your Fours, your Eternal Fire. It's blended in a lot more.
Yeah, because I think that's Beastik, what you were saying about like randomness. I don't know if you've played much of the Websters or that core, because I think that core used to be in a team together. They seem like a very just random team. Like, yeah, the MDS, Speedak, and Box core, and it's just like I remember watching them play, and it was just like, how is this working?
Well, I think their core was old Nemiga, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like these guys are good. They played some nice CS in Nemiga, to be honest, but we didn't play Websters at all. I would say I don't remember if we played them or not, but I don't remember playing against them, so I don't think we did. So I don't have much opinion against on them, to be honest. So I don't know if they are random or not, but you know.
Yeah. I guess another interesting team there is Monte. I know we were talking in the pregame. You guys have played them a fair bit, and I think they're a very interesting style of Counter-Strike. That it's a group of players who have all left their rosters to search for something bigger and better. And they've been doing pretty well. Like I know, would they like have been more of a surprise for you, Beastik? I think going into the later stages of this year, it's like this is a team that just formed and instantly did well.
Yeah, I feel like when you form a team with these outsiders guys that no one wants, and they didn't find a team for a while, or they were kicked, they always deliver at like first 2 or 3 months. They always deliver at play well, but it's really hard to like keep the team on the same vibe and make like the stable results and keep the team, so as you can see, they already made the 2 roster changes. I don't think like they gonna keep together for long.
Yeah.
No, that's
Do you
completely
think
fair enough. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think it's like that honeymoon, like, so I guess you could call that like the honeymoon period? Do you ever have that sometimes in your team? So like you've obviously just made a roster change now. Would you maybe have like a honeymoon period of like new vibes?
We had that when we brought Oscar for the first time, like last year. We had it obviously first 3 months. We could see that we didn't put like so many hours into the game, and we weren't tryharding that much, but everything was working out. Everyone was like on point, and everything was working out for some reason. We didn't know even why, and everything was working out. So we had it as well, and it's great to have honeymoon period, to be honest.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Copenhagen Flames, they're definitely having a honeymoon period because
Oh, God,
in
have
every
to be,
single
yeah.
one of these graphics we've seen, they are near the top, or well, they're here right at the forefront of South Europe. We can kind of delve more into the players that kind of make up some of these teams a little bit later on. For now, I just want to kind of keep moving through the regions and move over to America. I kind of want to group these a little bit together because if we take a look at South America, for example, there is a dominance here. Fluxo right at the top. I'll be honest, not really that surprised. I think they play incredibly well. Pain towards the bottom. That one's a little bit of a interesting one for me. But apart from that, it's kind of the old regulars. For someone who watches quite a lot of South America CCT, Sharks, Isurus, Paqueta, they're always there. They're always playing these circuits, which makes sense why they've acquired these regional points.
Yeah, I think Pain, they only played the first one and they
Yeah.
came second in the first one. But they went to America and they literally went to America for the last CCT tournament and just won it. So that's something we'll touch upon with North America. But before we even get into this, I think we were talking about this before as well, Beastik, like we were saying this is a just fundamentally very different style of Counter-Strike they play over there. Is this something that you ever watch and you take stuff from, or when you maybe scrim these guys when they come over and play in Europe? Do you ever like take something from them that you just wouldn't normally find in Europe?
Yeah, if we talk about these teams that are in the rankings, I don't think we played any of them. Maybe 9Z few times, like
Yeah.
once or twice, but we didn't play anyone from this ranking. But I feel like it's always great to play these teams and have another view for the game, because everyone sees the game different and you always take something new from them. And I like 9Z and their style, because I've seen them playing some tournaments in Europe, and I took some ideas from them. So I feel like they are really like good to watch, to be honest.
Yes, I think what we always kind of conclude on a broadcast is that like it's just a different style. It's like it's in Europe you maybe have very specific styles in each region, and then you go to South America and it just feels like everything's different. And you were saying as well for the Chinese CS as well, you were saying before you really enjoyed IHC. And do you want to run us through, like you were talking about more how they just contacted everywhere?
Yeah, they like to rely on their M, and you see the differences between the regions. Some European teams like to play way more structured, like you use util for every part of the map and stuff. But sometimes it's like really obvious to play this way, and you have to combine these things. So that's what I like about IHC, because they like to combine. They know these setup rounds. They know how to contact, and they know when to do these kind of things in like which situation. So that's what I like about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting to kind of take into account the ways that different regions kind of set themselves up for Counter Strike. I mean, taking a look at South America just quickly now, the fact that we've got one dominant force in South America is something unique to all of these regions. We have never seen a team like Fluxo win every single series in CCT outside of this South America thing. So to have one team that is winning everything and just kind of created a little bit of a legacy, that's really cool to see in the South America region. We can also take a look at North America as well, because that one actually concluded at the time of recording. And as Freddie was mentioning just a couple of days ago, Payne actually won the second North America series.
Yeah, this is I actually find it a little bit amusing that the majority of North American teams that, especially in the last one that were in playoffs, were actually Brazilian. But yeah, Payne, I think they were literally in America for the CCT tournament. They came, they won it, and they pretty much swept everyone. Like the only team they had some trouble against would have maybe been the MIBR squad. And you have specifically Zevi, their AWPer, if I'm not mistaken, just running around killing everyone, it feels like. And I spoke to some of the NA players and they were really hyping him up. And that's something you see a lot in these regions when you was just saying that Beastik, maybe like the lack of utility that sometimes does enable an AWPer, because the AWPer can just run around and kill everyone, and because they're not getting denied any space, they're just getting absolute free reign. But then, yeah, I think the one big part, to be honest, is the fact that you have like Complexity losing in the semifinals, for instance. I don't think they're even on the scoreboard because they didn't even get that many points. But it's like you have EG White losing in the quarterfinals, you have Complexity losing in the semifinals. These are big names, big organizations that are supposed to be the best teams in the region, losing to the likes of Pain, losing to the likes of Nouns. And like, yeah, Nouns 2-0'd Complexity, and they've just made a roster change, and Nouns is like an RMR team that like scraped by to the RMRs, and then they've beaten Complexity in a best of three. It's like that isn't what you'd want to be seeing. But I guess, Beastik, you were saying as well that you scrimmed maybe some of the more like upper echelons of NA. Would you say that they also have a very different style that you can take away, like South America?
I think it's quite the same. There's not much of a change between North and South America, because most of the time you can see like it's always Brazilian teams. There's not many like
Yeah.
Americans. So most of the time it's Brazilian teams, and they have some like they have their play style. And every Brazilian team plays the same way. If we don't talk about Imperial, they play some different CS, but I think it's the same.
How would so how does Imperial change up from your perspective?
I feel like they play way more structured CS than
Yeah.
any other Brazilian teams.
Okay,
Sadly, it
yeah.
doesn't work, I think. Yeah. Doesn't seem to go their way, does it, Brandon?
Not all the time, especially not at
Yeah.
the recent major. But look, hopefully they can put themselves. They're definitely on the map, but it would be good if they could be a little bit more consistent. It's always like watching Imperial play, but we're not talking about Imperial. We're talking about the regional rankings for North America. We're just seeing here. We've got Tropicals, Pain second, and Disconnected in third. That kind of concludes in terms of every single region so far that we've got. Here's an update for you to round out the year. Although it's something I kind of wanted to talk about, Freddie. I know that you've got quite a lot of information about this as well. Would be the regional circuits that just got announced as well to help support grassroots organizations.
Yeah, it's like it's just a bit it's something a bit different. I think it was something that I wasn't anticipating to see as well. And I was actually more than anything happy and impressed that CCT had done this. And I think for anyone that I'm just pulling up the article I wrote actually on this. I think if anyone doesn't really understand, I think the fundamental idea is that they're actually starting to focus a little bit more on like on these regional environments. So I know the most information I have would be on the UK, obviously, because that's the one where more like I'm directly involved with that pretty much. And then I spoke a little bit to the Power League lads over in Denmark, and just about talking about what their system is. But the whole idea is that you're giving the chance for these smaller regions to get more availability into these tournaments. So I know there's 12 leagues in total. There's like, there's I think all over pretty much Europe, you have like Finland, you have Iceland, you have Hungary, you have Norway, all these different regions, and it basically gives each one of them a spot where they can send a team that maybe isn't one of their better teams. Like obviously from the UK, we're not going to be sending Into the Breach as our spot because they're getting invites
Yeah.
anyway. So we send maybe like a One Pin or a Viperio, who are a team that are like maybe high advanced level. I guess is probably the place to put them, and you're giving them a chance to compete in the CCTs on the HLTV pages every single time. And I think each league has a different qualification process. So I know in Denmark, he was saying that the Power League, whoever wins it, that's pretty much going to be the person who goes through. Whoever wins it will get an invite. I know in the UK, we have the Beyond Invitational tournaments, and it's going to be a point system. So if you get first place, similar to you get like 150 points if you get first place. You get second, you get something similar, maybe like 80. And whoever has the most points when the tournament comes around, they'll get invited through that. But yeah, it's just a genuine, nice, good thing, because it means that a lot of these regional places that don't necessarily have that big of a scene are just going to have teams going through into these big tournaments to prove themselves. And to be fair, these teams might go through tournaments, get absolutely dumpstered, but at least they're learning. And I feel like at least they're getting something away from it.
It's for me. I feel like it's the exposure and the opportunity, right? That
Yeah.
it's kind of it wouldn't even be possible without these considerations being put in by CCT for the regional circuits. So that's just something I kind of wanted to just touch on to give a little bit of a spotlight to. So if people are sitting here listening and they think, oh, I'd actually quite like to get involved in that, if you head over to the CCT Tour website, there's definitely information about that for you. So that does conclude the CCT roundup element of the podcast. We kind of just got over at a high level who's performing well in all of these regions, who are the teams that are kind of just standing out to us. I feel like now I kind of want to deep dive a little bit more, not just into the teams, but the players that have been performing exceptionally well throughout our tour. And I guess we can kind of dub this, as a lower third suggests, as the rising stars of CCT. Me and Freddie, we kind of had a chat before the podcast started, and we've kind of taken a couple of players from the regions. We've gone for Central Europe, Northern Europe, South Europe, and we've grouped the Americas together because we feel like we've got a lot of talking points that we can have. So I guess, Freddie, do you want to kick this off in any particular order?
I think the order I want to go for this is just straight away Beastik. Like, is there any player that you've played against when you played maybe in like Central Europe, or just that you've scrimmed against as well within that would play in these tournaments that you looked at and you were like, oh god, this guy's good. And I think you were speaking about Matties as well from your region. So someone who maybe is like trying to get through into CCT. Do you want to like, who are these players and why do you think they're good?
Well, I would start with Matis, as you said. I noticed him before the show. He's basically one of the best players that Czechoslovakian scene even ever had. I think he might be even better than Neofrak if he gets the chance to prove himself, because he made some wrong decisions, and he's maybe stuck in his team for a while. But from European teams and players, I think I'm impressed with Sobol from Honoris. This guy is crazy good, as well as Reiko. These two guys are really exceptional. If we talk about operas, obviously I would say Forze, because Forze is great player, as well as Harn from Enterprise. These two guys are insane, and these players are the first one that comes to my mind.
Yeah, because I think Han he was playing in the Southern Europe and like he stood in for one of the Bulgarian teams and just destroyed and just had like an absolute unreal performance. But speaking about Orpas, I feel like a good place to start then is Regali. We were talking about Copenhagen Flames before, and we were talking about how they've been doing really well throughout, maybe like a bit of a honeymoon period. But Regali, Romanian Orpa, I've cast him a lot, and he seemingly every single time I cast him does well. Like there's not even a single game I think I haven't seen him go like plus 20 in the series. I think the one big factor I see with him is that, you know, like he still can do it with an AWP, for instance. When he uses an AK, like even when he's got the AWP, he's at a high level, but then you see some AWPers maybe drop off when they don't have the AWP in their hand. Regali, you put him in any situation, and he just seems to be absolutely unreal. So I don't know if either of you two have an opinion on him.
Yeah, we played Copenhagen Flames for a while, and we played them when they forced the team, and that was really like, what the hell is this team? Like TMB was IGL, Bertom Sky was IGL, Rouse was IGL in Sprout, and it was like, how is this gonna work? And they didn't play that well from the beginning, but they really stepped up, and they have some real good structure in their team. They react so well to the game, and I feel like the way that Regali plays, and the way that he has so much impact to the game, is because Bird from Sky made so much, like he gives him like so much freedom, and they play so well around him and give him like everything to do. So that's basically why he's so good, I think.
I think just to kind of build on your points as well, I feel like Regali is a very clutch AWPer as well. I've seen him in a lot of situations where he will just pull around just out of the hat, where you just don't expect him to ever really do it. And he was showing like flashes of that during his time when he was standing in for Fnatic and when he was playing on Fnatic Rising. So I think for me, just kind of like as a personal touch, I'm really happy that he's got this opportunity here and to play under an
Yeah.
IGL, as you mentioned, such as Bird from Sky. He's going to learn an awful lot, and that's going to really help his development going forward. And the fact that we're seeing a Regali at this level so early in his career, that only has good things to say, and it sets him up really brightly for the future. So I'm excited to see where his development could continue to progress, because now they're going to have opportunities where it looks like they're in good stead to attend some of these studio lands next year, and that's going to be a whole different kind of element to their Counter-Strike, right? Going from online gaming to now in a studio LAN environment. Basically, I hope you could touch on that a little bit for me, because I know you've participated in your long career just at LANs. How much of a difference is there going from playing online? You got your creature comforts, you kind of got your entire setup, you're used to everything, to then go into a completely random destination that you have not really ever been in before, potentially, and then you're being thrown in this LAN environment. How does it really compare?
I feel like it depends on a person. I'm kind of a person that likes more to play on LAN, because I like discomfort. I don't like playing in the comfort. It's just not for me. I like when when it's like challenging for me to have like different table, I don't know, whatever, different monitor or whatever. So I like it, but it could be really hard for some people. I know that Neofrag was that kind of a guy that had to have everything just as home, or he couldn't perform. Same as Forsy. He was that kind of a guy who likes to play at home, and when he was on the LAN, he had to adjust everything for him. So he plays like that. So it's really hard for some people, but for some people it's easy.
Because I know, especially in the UK, the lands, you rock up, you have a wooden chair, basically like a
Yeah,
plastic chair,
yeah.
like you sit down, desks are all like at different heights, there's a hole in some of the desks, and it's like stuff you kind of get used to, and I think, yeah, it's like, especially when you're with your team, I feel like it's just nice being with your team at LAN. Like when I played, it was just nice, like you look to the left and that you have someone right next to you instead of just
Yeah.
being at home. And I don't know about how it is in your region, but in the UK, it's a very vocal environment. A lot of screaming at each other, like at the other team. I don't know. Like I always like to ask people like at their local lands or like the regional lands, like what's the atmosphere is like. Like are you guys? Is it very like a happy environment? Is it very like loud, or is it a little bit more maybe like relaxed, modest, and like chilled out?
It depends. When I was younger, it was like 2016, 2017. It was more like there was lands when it was like BIOC, bring your own PCs.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so we had to bring our own PCs and stuff, and it was really amateur, and it was really loud, and everyone was screaming at each other and stuff. But nowadays, it became like so like professional and stuff. So
yeah.
we have stage and everything, but a lot of people comes to watch and cheer, and it's like 1,000 people watching and screaming in Czech Republic. It's crazy.
So like I guess just talking like a little bit of a sidetrack, just like talking about the like how popular gaming is in in Czech Republic. Like is there, like you were saying, like you get these fans, so is that because there's a lot of Czech Republic teams, like you have a very good ecosystem, is like how come it's just so popular? Like is it very popular just in the country in general?
It wasn't before seniors gaming wasn't really popular in Czech Republic and Slovak, but since seniors formed and we like broke into Europe and we made EPL and stuff, so many people came watching CS and started like cheering for Czech CS, not even for us, also for other teams. So I think last 2 years it grew so much.
Oh, okay. This is something I want to touch back on in when we get to the later stage of the interview, because it's really interesting what you're talking about there of like how you guys just one good result instantly just brought everyone up. But getting like a little bit back on track and talking about the players, I guess looking at the other regions, and we were talking about someone like Harvu X7. I think already he's someone that is, to be fair, that Harvu team was like, who do we pick as the
Yeah.
player that's doing so well? And I think X7, it was more specifically his performance in the playoffs of Northern Europe. I think that was when people on Twitter were like, oh, he's back. Okay, he's back. So I don't know. Again, both of you, like Beastik, if you've played him, and I know Brandon, we were talking about it before of like maybe he's back.
Well, probably he is. I think I don't have much to say about him since we didn't play them that much, but when we played them, he was like super smart and he was winning every like unwinnable clutch. He won, and when they like freeze the game and stuff, they like he's really good at lurking and so on. So it's really hard to play against X7, and he has so much impact.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I kind of want to take it down a different, like almost like a narrative route, because we kind of phrased this and we set up this segment to be like the rising stars. Typically, when you hear that sentence, you kind of think about young players rising through the ranks, right? And now we're talking about X7, but this guy, he's reached like some of the highest heights you can in Counter Strike alongside Aerial, and then they would join this Harvu roster, and the results weren't great, but this is. For me, this is a story about how they've really stuck at it. They've worked through um, these problems that they've got within the team, and they're really now kind of elevating themselves and making themselves back into the forefront, especially within the CCT circuit. And I've been so impressed with just how this roster has performed. To kind of touch on a little bit of what you were saying before, Beastik, in the previous segment, I think Doto was actually a really good signing for that team. I think that he's really knitted that entire roster together. And I think, yeah, X7, incredibly smart player. You can just see it just from the way that he sets himself up for situations. Every single gunfight he takes is calculated, and he's always thinking about what happens next immediately after he's had the engagement. So for me, I think he's one of the smartest players we've got in the circuit. Another one I'd quite like to touch on in the North Europe sphere, we kind of mentioned Trick just a little bit, and Freddie, you actually spoke about the Lucky storyline. I would like you to kind of just take the reins on this one, because I feel like it's a very important player to bring up, because after his kind of tribulations in Astralis, you thought, well, is this guy kind of done? Well, the answer is a flat no.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation I think we could talk about for ages. Astralis bringing in someone, putting them out of position, putting them in roles where maybe they're not comfortable with. I think Mister again is another prime example of like he's playing some of the most random roles. Like he's like he's playing anchor, then he's playing rotator on A, and it's like on nuke, for instance. And it's like I think Lucky is a prime example of that. Gets taken out of Tricked where they were doing really well. You know, big team comes calling. He obviously is going to go, and I think he's replacing Device. That's pretty big shoes to fill. And like they basically just churn him up and throw him back away to the Wolves. He goes into Tricked again, and I think from what I heard, when he like from leaving Tricked, it wasn't that good of a like it wasn't like oh good luck in Astralis. It wasn't that good of terms when he left Tricked, and he's come back into the roster now, and they've taken their time to get back. Like they've lost consistently to regional teams at LAN. I remember in the Power League, they got slapped around by Masonic in their finals. They had one of the other LANs, I don't know what it's called, but they lost to Astralis Talent twice in the tournament. Once in like the upper bracket and then once in the finals. To be fair, I think the finals was played at like 4 a.m. It literally finished like 4 or 5 a.m., which is the epitome of Counter-Strike sometimes, those LANs. But like they went from being maybe they're not really that good anymore to out of nowhere, back-to-back top 4 places in CCT, back-to-back making playoffs and doing well. And a big part of that was Lucky. He's doing really well now on the AWP. Prime as well. I think you got to give some love to him on that Tricked roster. And then Nodios as well, their newer player who replaced Kier. He's someone who really impressed me, but it's good to see Lucky now. Like it'd be sad to see his career maybe just completely be done over by Astralis, but he's back in the roster now. He's back doing well, and this is a team that seems to be only doing better. And again, same thing, Beastik. Have you guys played them much?
We played few games against Strict, but I watched their demos because I think they are a really interesting team to watch and you can learn some. So I watched their demos, and I feel like the best player there is Prime, to be honest, because I'm really impressed with Prime, because I remember this guy like 2 years ago, and he was like normal player, nothing special, and you could see that how big of a progress he made, and how confident he is, and how he likes to take duels, and how he wins everything, and how well he rotates, how well he like help his teammates. So I feel like Prime made a really good like blow up.
I think that's basically perfectly put the nail on the head. He's for me anyway, I watch him play, and then every now and again he just has those rounds where like, oh, he just killed everyone. It's like, oh, fair enough. And I guess a natural progression then, Brandon, would be talking about another Danish player who was actually on one of those rosters that Tricked always were struggling against. Fessel, he was the Astralis talent man, ridiculous stats time and time again. Ended up leaving. I think the whole Astralis talent roster just kind of crumbled away after not finding success internationally. And Fessel's now on Monte, and he's having an absolutely unbelievable performance yet again. I think he's got like a 1.22 rating across the last 3 months in multiple tournaments. And Brandon, I guess like I think we've casted Monte a fair bit, and like you would have cast him the RMRs, right?
Yeah, and I've also looked at kind of Fessel's progression this year under Astralis talent. I think like he's got a lot of potential for someone who's incredibly young, and we're kind of seeing these players come out of the academy projects. I think obviously you can talk about the Mouse NXT, but out of the Astralis talent project, you've obviously got Fessel that's moved to Monte. You've got Breezer that didn't quite work out in Ecstatic, but again, he's still got that opportunity to shine. So for me, I feel like Fessel has got a lot of untapped potential, and I feel like he does deserve an opportunity on a team come next year, because I feel like in the Monte team, I agree with kind of what Beastik was saying. It's one of those teams where they come together, they're going to perform really well, but the next progression for this team would be for all the players to get signed individually to different teams, to be different pieces for organizations coming into, if not early 2023, then certainly within 2023 in some capacity. And honestly, I wish all of the Monte players just the very best, because I think that mechanically and some of the decisions that they make, they are very competent players, and I think they do deserve an opportunity. And we've isolated Fessor just because of probably his age, and also just the ability that I think he could potentially unlock. So, but you could talk about any of those Monte players, really, to be honest with you. I feel like another player that we would touch on quite briefly, and I feel like that's because we got a little bit of UK bias here, Freddie. But I want to kind of talk about Endpoint and Nerds, because this guy, I feel like the biggest thing when I associate with Nerds is I did a podcast with you, and you were talking about Pro League, and you said, look, if Endpoint wants to have any success, then Nerds is going to have to step up, and he will pop off. Oh my goodness me, he did.
I think it's like a 1.30 rating.
He played exceptionally well, and from there, like, he was on my radar anyway, but he's now just kind of like catapulted himself like right into the front of my vision. Like, this guy is unbelievable.
Yeah, Endpoint seem to have this weird thing of just finding these random like Israeli players, like Heavy God. Who is he? First game I watch, he gets literally like a 3 KD in an overtime. I'm like, oh, grand. Okay, sure, this guy's unreal, I guess. But yeah, the Nerds point, something I want to touch on is like he's a very aggressive player, and he's a very aggressive entry fragger, and a big part of that is because of his pure aim ability. And sometimes, and this is statistics pulled up that we were using over in the EPS, which is our like ESL Premiership, it's our local league. He was getting very ineffective entry frags, so he was going for these kills, and they were either being traded out, or he wasn't even succeeding in them. And a big part of his entry, the big part of the rounds that Endpoint were losing were because of his ineffective entry frags. And I think a big part of that, you could always say, like, naturally they're playing as a lower level team. Nuts probably just running around killing people and maybe getting a little bit over aggressive, but he was putting himself in a position. And if you compare it to other players, when they get entry frags, like, he's running up B short on Monster and is taking a duel on someone where it's easily tradable, where other people would be a little bit more methodical about it. So his entry kills actually led to not many rounds being won. And that's something where maybe just seeing growth in the player more than anything. I think if he's a player who still is growing. So I think for him, he's going to be good. I think maybe it's just those little fine details that he has to maybe straighten out a little bit. But yeah, I guess Beastik, you've surely played these guys, or maybe know someone who has similar issues when it comes to those like entry roles.
Yeah, we played Endpoint, and I remember Nerds, we played LAN against them, and he was basically the only one who popped off from their team. So I know how good he is, and I knew it even before they picked him up, because I watch some FPL players like streaming and stuff, and I saw him there, and I knew that he was good, same as Heavy Got. And they also picked up Boros before, so I don't know who is it, if it's Mighty Max being so good at scouting players or who, but they are really good at it. I think we, if we talk about the open fragging thing, I think we had the same problem with Neo. He had the same issue. Like he was having some issues with open fragging being sometimes way too naive and aggressive in things, and he was getting traded way too easily when he could make a better decision. And I feel like we couldn't teach him, and that was on OG to teach him. So I think Nerds has really good basics, and if he gets the opportunity to play in a tier 1 team, they will teach him these things, and he's gonna be like the really good player.
I think 'cause that's the same thing we're talking about the Monte. Sadly, Endpoint are in that sphere of like a bigger team comes knocking, and you have Flames. I think that's a prime example of there was an interview Mighty Max did with, like, I think it was Rush B Media, if you guys remember that back in the day, the Rush B site, when Flames got poached. Max basically said, like, we had something going. OG gave him money. There's literally nothing we can do about that. And I think that's the issue with one of these teams, that don't have those deep pockets of Flames, Heavy Gods, these very individually talented players. It's probably time. Like there probably isn't going to be too long until someone comes knocking, and there's probably going to be Nerds out. Like when he's out of contracts, there's probably going to be like half of tier 1, tier 2 offering him something. And that's the only issue with a team like Endpoint is that how long are you going to keep a 5 like this together?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's oh, sorry, go on.
It's fine. It's fine. You can continue.
No, you're good.
I mean, it's hard for a team like Endpoint and us, obviously, to keep the 5-man roster because money talks, and the organization
Yeah.
wants money. Player wants money, and they like the opportunity to play tier 1 teams as well as Naufrag. Like, you don't even offer us that much money. I don't know, like how much OG pays, but you get so many spots on tier 1 events that
Mm.
he won't get here because we get one tier 1 tournament per year if we have some luck, I would say. So it's a really good opportunity. I think organizations won't stop the players, and I hope they won't.
I guess in the other way of that, you look at the academy teams as well. Like you have that system where Neofrag gets taken up, and then you have someone coming through. And I think we touched upon the academy teams of like Fessor and something I want to quickly mention as well, like the Sinners Academy. You guys have an academy team, and you mentioned Finno, and I think I want to just give you like a little time to talk about Finno and like who this guy is, and I think why it's another proving ground of why the academy leagues are so good, and it's like it joins in with the whole rising stars thing. It's like majority of these rising stars probably in the next 2 years will all be academy league players at one stage.
Yeah, I think academy is like the thing that every organization has to have, exactly like especially like Sinners, Endpoint, and these teams that are like farms for a tier 1 teams. We have to because it's cheaper there on Czechoslovakian scene. It's quite expensive to get some player from other organizations. So you have to have like a academy team, and we made it like I don't know, it's like 4 months or something like that, and we picked up the best players, I would say, that could even play in teams like Eklot, Esuba, or something like that. And I think Fino is one of the best upcoming operas in Czech Republic. Like, he's Slovak, but
Yeah, because I think if I'm not mistaken, they're in intermediate, and he's got like 110 ADR, and it's actually just ridiculous. Like 110 ADR on Orpa is like that isn't a thing. That's just I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and he's different because when I'm talking with when I was talking with their coach and IGL and with him especially, you could see that he thinks about the game like the right way. I would say, for me, he thinks about the game the right way, the way I like to think, and he's not the kind of like the op that debates players for stats and stuff. He's still supporting and so on, so he's gonna be really good if he like continues the way he goes now.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I guess kind of follow the string of academy teams. Over in across the pond, I want to talk about MIBR because MIBR, they had Brenzen that was on the academy. They brought him in. And for a period, he was AWPing when he wasn't an AWPer for a little bit. It's kind of a similar to Stripes bringing in Mister. It basically he wasn't playing the correct role. They were going through a transition period. The MIBR have now made more roster changes. They've brought in Henny and they've allowed Brenzen to remain in the team, and now he's rifling. Ever since he's picked up this rifle back off the AWP, he's been incredible. And I kind of wanted to twin these two players together, Brendan and Henny, because I feel like they've really elevated MIBR up to that next level. Because I look at a player like Brendan and people were not expecting too much from him. And in interviews, I remember MIBR saying, look, we just want him to have an opportunity, play without pressure, and see how he performs. And he's just been doing exceptionally well. Like I'm incredibly impressed with how he's doing, but also how much Henny is really brought into this roster as well, because he's performing exceptional. And MIBR, it looks like they might be back at some stages later next year. I say later in the year. It's December now.
Yeah, because they did quite well in obviously like Central Europe we were talking about.
Yes,
They won
yeah.
that when they were over, and if I'm not mistaken, they just came top four at the North America, and they only lost to Payne, who won the event. And I think yeah, this is a squad that I met the boys over in Sweden when it was at the Pinnacle Cup Championship, and they got like absolutely battered. They basically, I think they literally just got destroyed on every single map they played, and you almost don't you see this team are like, are they ever going to come back from it? And they have, and they've done really well. And it's like talking on, I guess we mentioned Orpers there, and we mentioned Zevi before. He's someone on that Pain Gaming team who's playing like absolute ridiculous as well. And I think we've spoken about him already so far, just like how much impact he has in this team and how he's playing against in this regions that aren't using utility maybe to the best of their abilities. And that's why the Orpers are able just to go absolutely wild everywhere.
Yeah, I feel like another potent rifler in the South America scene is also Lacalzi on Fluxo. We can't talk about the South America scene without mentioning the Fluxo player. And for me, Lacalzi is one of those players that is incredible. He got bought out. He used to play on Sharks. Fluxo invested in him, and well, I'll be honest, the investment's really paying off. Excited to see this Fluxo team really just kind of catapult themselves more into kind of the spotlight, and also just maybe getting these invites. We saw how they did at the Blast event. They performed pretty well. I feel like they ran a couple of teams quite close. The biggest issue for me with Fluxo is one of the best maps is Dust 2, and obviously that's now going to be rotated out, and we're going to have Anubis. So for me, as a little bit of a Fluxo stan, it'll be interesting to see how they progress now that they don't have their best map in the pool.
Yeah, and I guess with that all in mind, we can head over and just look at some of the teams that are playing right now in this that are playing in CCT that have been making shuffles. And I feel like without even we have to start with Astralis, right? You have to start with Device coming back. And Beastik, I guess firstly, did you watch any of the games that Astralis played? So I think they played against Heat and they played against Tricked.
No, I didn't watch any games. I just saw the statistics from the game, and I've seen that Device made like good comeback, I would say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let's see how it goes. I don't know if they continue with Mistra, and do you know or not?
Not
Uh,
sure.
I think he's on trial. That's yeah. He's on.
Yeah.
He's not confirmed as a placement for next year.
Okay, so because if they get config here like back instead of Mistra, I think Astra is gonna be insane. But let's see.
Yeah, because I think with Config, from my opinion, he's the best entry in Denmark right now, and they've lost him and they replaced him with Mister. So I'm like, ooh, is it like, is this like they've lost him because of reasons outside the server, but like you've lost a big piece to your puzzle, and I don't know if you ever played Astralis or watched the demos, but it always felt like there was a big issue though between Glaive and Config because both of them were one to entry, and you can't obviously have two main entries. And I think that was one of the big problems though with that roster.
Yeah, I felt like there was also a clash with Glaive and Blame with
Yeah,
some city positions, because especially on Nuke, I think Blame plays outside and Glaive plays that as well. So I think they had some issues at the beginning, but I think they fixed it somehow, and I hope they're gonna be like really good with Device.
Yeah,
hopefully, yeah.
yeah, I think they will be. I think again, it's just a case of they just need a little bit of time, and I feel like Player Break has come at the correct opportunity as we just move over to our next segment here, which is just the CS:GO reshuffling. I feel like reshuffling, we can kind of talk about not only transfers, but for me, I think I want to start with is kind of the Polish CS scene and AGO, because you can talk about reshuffle off the server, but we're talking about reshuffle in the server. Obviously, we've got examples of teams trialing 6-man rosters. It was last year with Vitality where um, they had Kyojin's brother as well. I forgot his name. That's really bad. But anyway, he was there. He went to Valorant.
Oh,
The
you mean Scream's brother or
Scream's
who is it?
brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Screams. Nivera.
yeah. Nivera, there
Yeah,
it is.
they and
Yeah.
they play in Valorant together, right? I think now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. But a team that is still experimenting with this six-man roster idea is AGO because they've now got Shenanigan. He swaps roles with Furlan. I'm not really too sure how that is going down. Before we kind of dive into AGO, because I know you have some information on it, Freddie, I guess a question for you, Beastik, is did you ever consider a six-man roster, or what's your just general opinion on a six-man roster in Counter-Strike?
I think we talked about six-man roster, but not that we want to make six-man roster. We was just talking about, is it worth it or not? Is it good or not? And we didn't come to anything. Like, someone said it's good, someone said it's bad. But I think my opinion is that it's really hard to stay consistent in six-man roster, because still you have to practice, and even with 5 players it's hard to practice like 6 maps, and being able to play 6 maps, and when you have 6 players you have to practice, so I think it's going to be hard to keep consistent like results, but I think some teams might be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I think AGO are pretty much a prime example of that. You have like I remember the last time I casted them, you have them just swapping and changing players, and it's like, oh look, Furlan has just had an absolute unreal game. We're gonna now swap him out because it's something that was decided before the game had started. And it's like, yeah, it was like you have Lehman, Furlan, and Shenanigan all on like a rotation basis. And I think the time that when it was against Tricks, Lehman came in for the second map after they just lost their first map 16-4, went 33 to 16, and then just like checks out again and goes back, and like Furlan comes back into the game, and it just feels like a bit. It does feel a bit. I'm not sure if I'm the biggest fan of it, and I know AGO are a very weird team now because they've picked up the 6-man roster that they wanted to have it around Fiku, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But instead of having it around Fiku now, they've picked up this young guy called Shenanigan, who not many people rate. And I think AGO, the whole hype around them in Poland has just completely died off. That's what I was talking to some Polish guys, and they were saying, like, they used to be good. They used to be making these pro leagues, but now they're not. And the whole hype around Polish CS has sadly died off because we were talking about Honorous, and I think they're now like the new team in Poland that people are getting behind. But AGO, people just seemingly the 6-man roster, like they've tried a lot of things, and it doesn't seem to be necessarily working.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. I mean, it's how I said, as I said, it's really hard to make it consistent, and I think with AGO, there I think there happened something between the players and stuff, so that's why they are not that likable anymore.
Something that we won't necessarily touch on that topic too much, but I guess, yeah, Brian, do you have any last thoughts on 6-man roster?
I feel like it. I understand with kind of what both of you are saying, and I feel like the issue you are inherently always going to have with six-man rosters is not not egos. That's not the correct term for it. But for example, if one player comes in and plays incredible, I feel like there should be some on the fly decision making. If this guy's had a really good game, we should keep him in for the last one of the series, rather than it being a predetermined thing that they will have to have coming forward into the next map. Because I understand the reason why you have to preset your lineups, because it's not only probably a requirement of TOs, but also just to kind of keep players happy. So even if you have a good game, you know that structurally that's how this has been set up from the decider. We've all agreed with it beforehand. But I feel like there again needs to be some flexibility in there, because if, for example, Verland doesn't have the best of games, a shenanigan pops off, I don't think it's then fair to take Shenanigan out and put Furlan back in, because Furlan would have been watching that thinking, damn, this guy's quite good. Maybe he should be playing for the last map of the best of 3 because he's recovered it. So for me, I feel like a little bit more flexibility is probably needed. And I feel like there's some probably decisions that would just inherently clash, because people would obviously want to play every single map and try and help out their team to best of their abilities. And that's ultimately why I don't think that 6-man rosters really work out, because everyone wants to help so much that it is often and maybe a little bit more of a deterrent, and you kind of take away something from the team. And maybe it's difficult to kind of build up chemistry with an additional player, rather than 5 players you practice with every single day, you play officials and scrims with every single day. And yeah, it's I like it. It was a little bit of a quirky thing, but I don't think it's got room for growth. And I feel like you see the many rosters have just really transitioned away from it and stuck with 5. I feel like that just kind of tells a really big story.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much perfectly summed it up. And starring a team that we outside of 6-man rosters now, going back to just the general reshuffles, a team that isn't necessarily too new anymore. The Ents roster, when they had they picked up a new AWPer in the form of Sampires, and they picked up Valde as well. They've completely changed their whole roster. They went from having a mega passive AWPer in the form of Hades to Sampires, who is one of the most aggressive AWPers I've ever seen. And it didn't work at first. It simply just didn't work. And now, after on the back of winning CCT Northern Europe, it's, I think, a good step in the right direction for them in the next year, because they had some pretty good teams they faced off as well. Like they didn't win it against maybe like a lower level team. They were playing against teams that they would face at these tier 1 games. And I don't know, Beastik, do you have an opinion on that new Ents roster if you've played them at all?
No, we didn't play Ents at all, but I'm really impressed by Ents and the way they are still able to make it work with any roster. And
Yeah.
I don't know how Snappy does that, but every team that he had was like really good, or at least like they were a competitor. So I don't know how he does that, but I'm really impressed, and I want to know how he does that. And yeah, I like to watch Ents. They are a really good like team that makes. They have like 2 play styles that they know how to play, and it's sometimes it's really annoying to play against them. And we played against them when they had the Hades before and Dotto still, but I think their lineup now is better than before. So I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they might be even better.
Yeah, I think there will be as well. I think again it comes down to time in the server and off the server, because for me you've then got I think I'm lagging a little bit. I'm sorry if I am.
Oh, grand.
Good. Okay, cool. My feed is lagging, so I'm just gonna pretend it's fine. For Ents, they went from having players that had, as you mentioned, Freddie, a little bit more of a passive play style, but also weren't really that vocal. I think Sampaius was the second caller in Movi, and I saw an interview that Snappy did with Richard Lewis, and he was saying literally that everyone's a little bit louder. Valda's got his opinions as well. So you've now got these new 2 players that you've injected in. You've gone from a different style of calling as well, because Snappy was making some of the calls just out of spawn. Now he's got this information that he can kind of be relayed upon, and he can kind of have these players set up in positions where you've got half the map, almost the map split in 2. You've got Snappy on one side and either your Sampaius or your Valda on the other, relaying information. That can make for more effective mid-round calling. And I think that there's definitely a transition period in there. But I agree with what Beastik was saying. They've always looked competitive, and it's looked very good so far. And I'm excited to see what a little bit more time can bring, because if you've got some bias that can kind of take these engagements, you've got Valda being kind of set up, allowed a little bit more freedom under the Snappy structure. I feel like this team could go very far, and I feel like we saw the moves and everyone was like, oh, what to expect from this? But I still would actually consider them a little bit of a sleeper team. I feel like that they're a very good team and they can provide a lot.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting one. You were talking about the Sunfire's second calling when I was at Cologne, and I spoke to Alex when they were in Movistar. When I spoke to Alex, I interviewed Sunfire's first, because we were doing like an interview where we had both of them in the same in the same article, and it was Sunfire's being like, "Oh yeah, I'm this big second caller. I do so much for the team." I asked Alex the same question. He goes, "No, not really. Like, Sampaya has done, he's a good player, but he doesn't do that much. Like, as in the amount that Sampaya is saying he was doing." And I was like, what does Sampaya really do in the roster now? You've got you have the IGL obviously saying something very very, very different to what some players are saying, but that was something I found quite funny. But I guess moving on as well, we could talk a little bit about the Eastern Europe shuffle. I think we mentioned a little bit about the K23 and how they're very similar to like these teams where if someone comes knocking, they can't do anything about it. And I think a prime example of that is that two of their old players have just won a major. And you've also got now they're rebuilding with this kid called the Pfizer who had one HLTV game recorded. before he's joined. And it's like, this is a random team with a mix of new and old. You've got like Idis Balance, obviously, their Orpa, who's old spirit, but somewhat of a newer team. And then you have like this whole entropic, the whole entropic now, exentropic, that whole shuffle. Anakez, who can speak like 3 different languages, is floating around somewhere in that. And then C9, who are apparently making roster changes as well.
Yeah, there's a lot to really break down. I feel like the big main one for me is the exentropic players. I feel like need a new home. I feel like they stagnated a little bit towards the mid portion of 2022. Elian, I feel like, was hyped up to be this player, and I feel like had a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I feel like he's a very good AWPer, but there was a lot of expectation from him, and I feel like there was a lot of expectation maybe on the organization side as well, and that's maybe what's led to the release. Maybe a couple of poor results thrown in 2022 has really accommodated that. But I feel like they deserve a new home. You see that Crad, he's already gone to fours. So I think that's a very good signing. Fours have made a lot of improvements. I feel Xiaofi, who's been developing this year, is incredible. I feel like his progression's come on a long way. And Crad seems like a very good fit for fours, especially with Jerry, who you think of Jerry just in general, and you think, this guy's been around ages. He's been on all of these teams. This guy's 24 years old. Like, I just want, he's 24. Like, he has...
feel,
Yeah, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, that surprises people a lot. So I feel like this guy's got a ton of experience, and I feel like that's a good step in the right direction. I don't know who fours are going to pick up as their permanent fifth. I know they've been trialing a few players, but I feel like that team's definitely on the right direction now.
Yeah, I guess Beastik, you were talking about how fours they're always like in these online tournaments and doing well. Like, what is your have you played them much with the newer roster? I guess.
No, we didn't play them with the new roster. Maybe one practice, but I don't remember one practice. But also about Jerry. Jerry is like, I respect Jerry the most because he's the guy that always makes just a snappy, but with unexperienced players. He's the guy who picks up unexperienced players, and they always perform in like such a low period of time. Like they are together for 3 months, and they just do well. And I don't know how he does that as well, because these guys just like make so much progress in short amount of time, and he has to be like really great. But I think if we were talking about the changes from Entropic, I think Forrester is linked with Cloud9, isn't he?
I believe so, yeah. I think that's one of the
I
rumors.
haven't. Yeah, I think there's so many rumors flying around, isn't there, about that?
But I don't think it's a good change. I think Cloud9 didn't need a change. I don't know what happened inside of the team or what is happening. Obviously, they know the best, but from my perspective, that's not a necessary change.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's agreed. There's like there's a lot of stuff going there, and I'm just more interested for that Eastern Europe side of like maybe in 3 months we actually get everything settled in, because it feels like every single team is like +2 right now. Every single team is looking for something. Every single team is not set in stone, and it's the fact they're not set in stone and still doing well. And it's just like, how is this happening? Like Jerry, you were saying, like he still picks up these random players and does really well with them. But talking about something that might be a little bit messy, touching on more of this like NA sphere, EG, 15-man roster. I think everyone knows about that. And some of the EG teams like EG White, they were the one with John G and them lot. They played in CCT as well. 15-man roster, and these like 2 teams, or like the 3 teams, and they all like interchange between each other. I spoke to Lucky about it. No, who did I speak to about it? I spoke to Farley about it, and he was saying that it's unhealthy having this competition, because if you had 2 teams, that'd be healthy competition. But he was saying that 3 teams is an unhealthy competition. What is your perspective on that side? Like a system like this, Beastik?
I feel like they didn't make it for a competition. They made it to make like the NA scene alive a bit, because it was dead, I would say. So they wanted to like found the scene, I feel like. But I don't know. I knew that it's not gonna work. Like 15-man roster, it's it's weird stuff, and you could see that it's not working. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much right. Is that like it just isn't working, is it? Like
No.
they haven't found any success. You know, they have. I think there was a photo of them all in Sweden together, and they're playing in Europe. Did you practice them at all when they were in Europe? Because they were in Europe for a while, all of them.
I don't know. We have a player break like since like last 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
because of Zetko's broke hand. So so
We'll
we
talk about
didn't
that in a
practice.
second.
So we didn't practice that much, and I didn't even know they are in Europe. So
It was it was ages ago. It was so when EG were playing the RMRs, the whole
oh,
squad came to Sweden. It was like all 15 of them were in Sweden during the RMRs.
okay, so we didn't play them. We didn't play not even EG, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it's just funny that we just spoke about whether 15-man rosters can work after decisively have just said 6-man can't.
Yeah.
So now we're adding 9 more. It's like, come on, guys. Like it's. I feel like what I do want to say though is I want to give a huge amount of appreciation to Neelan, who's come over and taken that challenge in the main squad, because he built up again. It's a similar Eastern European IGL that builds up K23. You've now got his pieces. 2 of them have won a major. He's moved across the pond for a new adventure, and that team has looked better. We've started to see a little bit more of Breeze coming back. Cirque started to hit the occasional warp shot rather than none at all. So I feel
just unnecessary.
yeah, like I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that team will keep getting better. The result at Rio probably wasn't, honestly, probably was on par with their expectations. I don't think they would have gone there thinking that they could have got out the challenger stage, but I feel like it would be a good. It's very good for that team to come together, play in a LAN environment, prepare for one of the biggest tournaments of the year, and even show up after a very good RMR performance. Impressed with how they were, excited to see how they would develop.
Yeah, and I think lastly, talking about the roster changes and the roster shuffles. Obviously, we could go on and on about talking about every single change there is, and we'll be going more in depth maybe about the sinners and your guys' stuff in the next segment. But lastly, Kenny S back on the server. He is obviously one of the biggest names in Counter-Strike. Period. Everyone knows who he is, and he's back on this Falcons roster, and they seemingly haven't done very well. I think they've bottled out of the majority of tournaments they've played in. CCT being one of them. It just seems. I don't understand how this roster has gone from being so promising to now just not.
Well, Kenny, yes, I don't know. I liked Maka. I didn't know
Yeah, same.
why they changed Maka because he was putting good numbers. He played really good, I would say. On a paper, Falcons have really good team and stuff. When you see it, you think like, you will see that it's great team. But I don't know. I just don't like Kenny's. I think not that he's bad player, but he's overhyped for his past for a bit. He's not that good as he used to be, and I think Maka
Yeah.
was better. But still, I don't know. Players made the decisions. Players know better than me, but that's my point of view. And I don't think they gonna be better than this.
Yeah, I think I'm personally. I think I agree right there. It's like you've got someone who used to be one of the best players in the world. Doesn't necessarily mean he still is, right? Like I think he's been streaming. Like he hasn't been playing competitively since 2 years or something like
It's
that.
been like year and a half, so it's I know it's a lot, and you have to get back to get it, like to your form and stuff. But I don't know. He was still playing CS. He was streaming, so
Yeah. Do you think that's enough? Just like playing CS?
no, it's not. When you play Faceit,
Yeah.
it's not enough because
Yeah.
you lose the meta. Like you live like the way you ended. You live there. You think that things that worked in 2020 work now, but they don't because meta changed and meta shift, and everyone plays different, and that's the problem of older players, I would say.
Also, really off topic, the invites for Century Europe number 4 have literally just come out while we're
Okay.
recording this. And there's some pretty big teams, ones that we've talked about. There's Big, Astralis, Gamer Legion, Movistar, Forza, Copenhagen Flames, 9 and 1 win. So literally, as we're recording this, the invited teams have dropped. And again, Astralis, roster changes. Hopefully they actually do well this time. Movistar, they kind of like almost also roster changes. Like they lost some Pius, they brought Martinez in, and then Copenhagen Flames and Forza. We were talking about how good they were, like in these tournaments. But yeah, that is like I think the end of this roster changes. Very insightful from you, Beastik, there talking about how like you just kind of forget the meta because face it, it's like it's a different ball game. I think it's do you play much? Because I know some people just don't play face it and they just don't play pugs because it's like it's bad and it's bad habits. But I feel like it's good to keep in the at least playing CS. But do you like would you guys play face it that much like together and stuff?
No, I don't play Face It that much. I don't even play CS:GO. I play just practices. I know it might sound weird, but all I do is watch CS and watch some demos and play the practices that I have and officials that I have.
I think that segues really nicely into our last segment, which is basically just looking specifically at you for a second, and specifically at the at just in general the sinners. And I think firstly, one of our really general broad questions is that like, what are your plans for the player breaks? I've always find it interesting talking to players and saying like, are you guys going to be full chilling? Are you guys going to be taking this month off and practicing, or are you just going to be doing a bit of both, maybe?
We have like not decided, but we have to take a break because Zetko is unable to play. So we are just full chilling. I just moved to new apartment, so I just made my own things, and we are just chilling, and we just gonna like have some fun, play some CS like for a while, but not that much. We have relegation in front of us, so we'll play that, and then we will just enjoy.
Yeah, I just like one quick segment as well. That Zedco. Can you explain what happened there? Because all we know is that he just hit his desk and broke his finger. Like, is that literally just what happened?
Yeah, it happened when we played Challenger League against Movistar Idris, and I feel like I felt like we were a better team on Ancient, but we still lost some rounds that we shouldn't lose, and it happened when we lost some. I don't know which round it was, but Zetko died for some weird reason, and he just got angry and hit the desk and broke his finger on Ancient, and then we went to the Mirage, and he was like, "Guys, my finger hurts," and I was like, "What the hell, man? Like, play, I don't care." And next day he told us that he broke his finger, and some case has to play. So unlucky.
I guess yeah, 'cause I'm just thinking right now, like, how would you even like, how would you
React to
do
that,
that?
yeah.
No, but like, how would you break your hand? Slap like, because like, I think we can all agree. Anyone's played CS, like, everyone's slammed their desk before, right? Like, everyone has. Sometimes it hurts, right? Obviously, but like breaking your finger, that's impressive more than anything.
Well, he's that guy that it was just unlucky. I don't think he hit the desk
Yeah,
so hard. It was just unlucky, like
like
unlucky
the way
angle
you
or
hit it,
whatever.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way you hit it. It was just
Mm.
unlucky, and the way we reacted to that, I think we were just laughing at that. You just have nothing else to do. Like,
You can't get angry, can you?
yeah, it just happened. You are dumb, and you know that he knew what he done, and he just apologized to us, and we had just laugh about that.
Mm.
Hmm. No, that's quite funny. I kind of just want to circle back to just kind of looking at the year in general, and just wanted to ask you kind of about your reflections on how you think you performed not only as a team as for Sinners, but individually as well. Were there set expectations that you had for your team in mind, and do you feel like you've achieved any of them throughout the year?
Well, since year before we had a really good year, I would say we have been 19th in the ranking. We almost made a major. We had big goals. We wanted to keep ourselves in top 30, and that didn't happen. We didn't even like stay in top 30. So that was the first that we didn't accomplish. Also, we wanted to hit major. We are close. in the first half in Bucharest. We were close to qualify, but we didn't make it as well. And then we failed even qualification for RMR. So I feel like overall this year uh, wasn't that good as year before, but it wasn't that bad, I would say, because we still made RMR, we still like were close. We kept ourselves in Challenge League. Hopefully, we will keep next spot for next year. But I don't know. We didn't meet the expectations that we set, but overall, it wasn't that bad.
Do you think a big part of that is just the fact that you have had roster changes? So, like, obviously, you had the new year with Forzy coming in, and I think on paper that would be seen as an improvement. And I think he has done better statistically, Rise. Like, throughout the year, he was pretty good, and you were saying like he's one of the better players of the region. But then Neofrag, you lost him, and I'd say you got a good replacement in Zero. Like Zero, he brings in a different, from my perspective anyway. Like he brings in a very different view just because he hasn't played regionally, like he's always been playing internationally, right? So you had these roster changes throughout the year. Like how impactful was it, for instance, not having Oscar coming in because you had Forzy then as the AWPer for the whole year, and then obviously in the middle of the year losing Neofrag? Like how important was that throughout?
Yeah. We lost basically the most important role. We had to change sniper, like Opera, because Oscar wanted to leave, and we had to make a replacement. So we took Forsy. I think Forsy is great player. Everything, he had great stats and stuff. But when you think about things that Oscar brought to the game, was when we picked him up, he was like so calm. And when he was calling, like he was the second caller. When he called something, he called like 3 or 4 rounds when he felt it. And when he was calling, we just won the round. It was obvious that we won the round because of his game sense and stuff. So that's what we were missing. Even though Forcio had good stats, he like couldn't do these things and help me with calling in these important rounds. Oscar was like the guy that would win unwinnable clutches every time. Every unwinnable clutch, he would win it and keep us in the game. In like, it was like 14-14 against Sprout or whatever, and he won the like 1v3 clutch. Forsy is able to do that, but like Oscar had higher winning percentage to do that. And as well, when he came in, he had some kind of weird aura. I don't know. We just felt like we were way more confident playing with Oscar because you have this big name behind your like back, and
Yeah.
we're way more calm on team speak and stuff when we had him. So these are like differences, and that's why we wanted Oscar back a bit, even though he's not that good individually. I can say that because Forsy is a better player, I think, even with rifles and stuff. But Oscar has some different things to like to get. And when we lost Neofrag, it was basically the hardest thing to replace because there was only one player that could replace Neofrag on his positions, and it was Matis. And we weren't able like to afford Matis because he was way too expensive because he signed contract in Sampi, and we were unable to buy him out. So we had to take Zero. I'm not saying that Zero is bad player. He's a really good player, but he's not good replacement. He's different player. He plays way
Yeah.
more passive, and we had to adapt our game like a lot and change some things, bring some like Zetko had to play way different than he played before. I have to play way different than before. So everyone had to adapt, and we had some struggles with that. And that's, I think, why we didn't make RMR, because it was so close before ending of the player break, and we didn't have time to adapt to everything. So that might be the big issue. But I think we made it quite well, and it's working now. But yeah, it was tough this year.
Mm.
Like I guess the immediate response to that then is with Oscar coming back into the roster, and you guys are you so you've all changed positions, right? And you've changed the game that you play since he was in the team last. So now that Oscar's back, how is it going to be like with you guys in these different roles and Oscar back in the team now? Do you think it will be the same success, or is Oscar going to have to play different?
I feel like Oscar's gonna. I think Oscar have to like learn some new things that we
Hmm.
did with Forsy. I hope that he's gonna be able to learn and he's willing to, because we told him about changes that happened this year, and he knows what he's like gonna do and what we want him to do. So yeah, he has to change. We have to change as well a bit to help him out, but I hope it's gonna work out.
Yeah, I feel like the interesting things that you touched on there as well was you saying that the only player you could really bring in to replace Neofrag was Matties. Is that because the organization just wants to focus more on Czech Republic players, recruiting them in, or is it a case of you don't really want to look internationally? Is that a decision that's made by yourself and the coach, or is that more of the Sinners kind of structure to the team?
No. Matis is Slovakian, so basically it's the same language.
Yeah.
That's fine. He's not international, but there was a problem with his buyout like the buyout from Sampi.
Hmm.
It was way too high for Sinners to pay it off, even though we sold Neofrag. They wanted way more than we
Yeah.
sold Neofrag for.
Yeah.
So it was like not possible to get him. And when we talk about the roster changes, who makes the decisions, it's mostly first it's me with Tom Case. We just talk about who we wanted, who we want, like who would fit. Then we talk with the other guys, with players. Do you like him? Do you don't? Could you like imagine playing with this guy? Is he fine or stuff? Then we go to the management and they say yes or no.
I think yeah, what Brandon was more saying as well is talking about. So you were saying that when you replaced Nero, Neofrag, you had to change. You struggled to find someone who played the same roles. Would you get someone who wasn't from Czech Republic or Slovakia and bring someone in who and like maybe all speak English together?
No, we don't want to speak English at all because some of our players are not the best English speaking persons, so we would have some issues. I
Yeah,
know
that makes
they
sense.
would be able to communicate, but it would be hard on some theory sessions and stuff. So we don't want international like lineup, and we just want to keep Sinners as a Czechoslovakian team.
Okay, that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I guess you mentioned the coach there and the importance he has, and I think we've both spoken before together about how like your coach, you were saying before, like your coach does the veto and you guys just sit there and play whatever comes. So it's like how important has these background things in the games? You like obviously the coach, he's not playing, but he has this massive impact outside of the game. You've obviously been playing for ages. You've played professionally since like 2014 or so. How over your time as a professional player has something like this changed where the impact of management and the impact of coaches is now so important in the game?
Well, first of all, I'm not playing professionally since 2014. I'm playing since Sinners formed. Before then, I was playing just for fun, for
Semi-pro
nothing.
type
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
semi-pro,
Okay, yeah.
just for fun. And
Yeah.
what was the question? I forgot.
So just kind of like like more like the tactical side of it and how the coach, how much he helps you. How much has
Well,
it changed over the time?
uh, I think our coach is not the kind of a guy who makes like the tactical decisions of how we're gonna play and what's gonna be played and stuff. We have it like I have the biggest like voice in these things, and we play what I like and what I want to play, and he helps with like things like small details when he sees some flaws in the game and like things that he thinks could be better that I'm doing and I'm teaching the guys and stuff. that, and he says it, but he's not the guy who says like you're gonna play this. No, no, no. It's like me and players when they want to say something.
Okay. That's a good insight. I guess a follow up question to that is, um, you are still one of the most experienced players in this Sinners roster, and you've been around since the inception of Sinners. So how much has kind of over the last couple of years, you were speaking about the meta, especially with the Kenny S move, with it changing and people can get stuck in the past. What's your kind of opinion, and how quickly and how often does this meta change, and the approach to the game professionally, how much has that changed over your time?
Well, I feel like meta changes like every 1 or 2 months. Every time someone comes up with some little nade or little detail that changes the meta. Like, I don't know, not many teams was breaking the doors on overpass, but nowadays everyone does that. When you doesn't do
Yeah.
that, you like have so much disadvantage, So no one was doing that like 2 years ago, and now is everyone doing it. And same with the smokes. NIP came up with some mirage smokes that they go for like top mid smoke and the mid smoke, and they play behind that like the wall and stuff. So it changes a lot, and even little detail could change the meta. So it's really hard to say
Mm.
how much and how often, but really often, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with the meta. Like, you don't have a new map being added, but you have like these very small differences that are being changed, and that's sometimes hard to see from the outside of it. But just going back to your guys' team dynamic, you were saying and you were talking about the members in it, and sometimes the vibe wasn't very good when you had Forzy, for instance. Now you have like this 5-man roster back that you feel comfortable with. What are like the what's the team dynamic like? Do you guys, who's like the funny guy? Who's the serious guy? Like, what's like a little bit of insight you can give us to the team?
If we talk about roster that is now with Oscar, I think the funniest guy is Zetko. Obviously, he's funny and dumb in a good way, and I think the serious one is Oscar, but he could be funny as well. And when he is trying to be funny, he's obviously really funny. And overall, I think most of the time it's Zetko just making fun, and we just enjoy the game.
That's good. I think that's the most important thing when you're in this like environment. Just have someone who's in the back, just kind of like maybe just getting the spirits up a little bit more. But rounding it off now, we were talking about this year for you guys, and now going into next year. Obviously, there's been a big change in the meta of Anubis. That's a thing now, and it's actually replacing your permaban. So if I'm not mistaken, your permaban's Dust 2, and Dust 2 has now been replaced by Anubis. So are you gonna keep Anubis as a permaban, or are you gonna change your permaban to like Ancient, for instance?
Well, I played some Anubis on Faceit and matchmaking, and I had fun. So I think we will play Anubis because I want to play it. And since we play these 6 maps, I think we might be able to pull off 7 maps.
Okay, that's quite
So
cool.
wait, 7? Okay, that's a
Okay,
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot more. That's a lot more to take on, but I quite like that, and because that means obviously you can kind of flex your permaban a lot more depending
Exactly.
on your opponents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are
So you
then
play
you are just
more their
more
weakness,
viable
right?
to know. Like nowadays, we just have to like ban dust, and sometimes when we have some like map that we are not so comfortable on, exactly like for example now it's Inferno. Everyone picks Inferno against us. We would be able to like ban Inferno. Then we would be able to ban Mirage when we have like some troubles on it. So I think having 7 maps in your pool is really good, and I would like to have that.
I like that. That's quite an interesting take. I was expecting you to say that you were just going to swap one for one, but keeping it flexible gives you more options, especially as an in-game leader. Oh, I'm excited to see how that one develops. into the next year. I guess would it be possible for you to kind of just give us almost like a day in the life of what it's like to be a professional Counter-Strike player? Because obviously people know that you guys practice quite hard, but it might not be kind of apparent as to what kind of goes into a normal day. Are you just playing Counter-Strike the entire time, or how much of that dedication is taken up by you guys doing offline stuff on the server or compartmentalized with like demo review? Do you guys all watch demos together?
Yeah, we do. We basically have this kind of uh, schedule that we practice. We practice for like 7 hours per day. I would say we have some like 1 or 2 hours of theory crafting. Then we have like 3 or 4 practices. We have some small break for food and stuff, and then we just go through our like practices for demo review, and we just go through mistakes and so on. So that's our like schedule. I would say we had quite easier schedule before, but I think with this kind of schedule we improved the most. So we keep like doing that. And after that, everyone plays like after practices, everyone does what he wants. I just watch some matches, maybe some demos, but mostly matches live because I like it more, and others just play or whatever. So we are playing a lot, I would say.
Is
Do you
that
think playing a lot? Yeah, I was gonna say burnout sometimes. Do you get struggle with that?
Yeah, obviously, I'm kind of a guy who cannot play a lot because when I play a lot, I just don't enjoy the game, and when I don't enjoy the game, I just don't have ideas like calling, and I'm not that good. So I'm trying to not play that much and just keep playing what I have to.
okay? And is that kind of like is it like a normal job? Is it like Monday to Friday, or how often are you guys practicing, and how often do you get time off?
Well, we don't have many times off because since we are the team like that has to get somewhere, we have to grind. So we are playing basically from Monday to Saturday. So we are playing like 6 days per week. We have one day off, and sometimes we don't even have day off when we have some officials on Sunday. So we are playing a lot.
That is, I guess, like it's probably good though. Like if you guys are doing well, then it's nice. If you're doing not so well, that's when it's maybe like mentally not that great. So I guess just looking ahead now, 2023, you're going to be playing a lot of Counter Strike. You've got this new roster now back with Oscar. The vibes are up. What are your plans, and what do you aim at getting done for this year?
Well, our only goal is to get major for a time. We had two like tries and we didn't make it, so we wanted to make it happen for a third time.
And how important do you think that would be for the Czech Republic and Slovakia scene? Because you were saying you guys are kind of one of the bigger reasons why you have these massive crowds coming to these events. So if you guys went to a major, what do you feel like the response would be from the regional scene?
I feel like it would be the same response as when they announced major in Brazil. It would be crazy. People just waiting for us to make major, or any Czechoslovakian team. They are just waiting
Yeah.
for them to make major, and we are the one hope, not the only one, because other teams are pretty good as well. But the one hope that could make it, and we were close twice, and people still believe. And when we make it, I feel like we might have so many fans in France.
Oh,
Do uh,
sorry. I just want to ask one more, Freddie, before you jump in. What is the media response like? Because do you guys get covered on like national TV, newspapers? Because I know Astralis do, and like their prime minister in Denmark's
yeah.
really big on esports. Like, because I just think it's so interesting. Because coming from the UK, we don't really have any media coverage at all with esports. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting getting different countries' perspectives. Do you guys get covered at all in the media?
Yeah, we do. We do a lot. I would say there's a TV that even sponsors the Czech League, so it's broadcasted. Not the biggest one, but like the second biggest TV makes some spots about esports and about us. So I think it's great to make it mainstream a bit, and people know about us and what's happening, and that we have some success in Europe.
That's actually like really cool, and I think that's this kind of leads me really nicely onto the point I was going to make. But it's even nice now. Is like, do you guys feel pressure sometimes then? Because if you were saying like, obviously you're not the only team from the region that looking for success, but like you're probably the team that people look at. Does this maybe get a little bit scared sometimes when you're like, and you were saying actually earlier you thrive in that pressure. So firstly, do you feel the pressure, and then secondly, does it actually make you better?
Well, I like to play under pressure. It makes me enjoy the game more than
Yeah.
when I don't have any, and I just basically don't care about. But yeah, we have there's a tons of pressure on us, because you still see like the people like to live in the past, and they see that we made, I don't know, EPL, we have been 19 and on rankings, we almost made the major and stuff. And when we brought up zero, our like results, we didn't even make RMR. We lost about against some Czechoslovakian teams and stuff, and the pressure was really high, and it was really hard to deal with. And I can say like it was really hard to keep the lineup as it is now, without any other changes. So yeah, the pressure is high, even from organization. Obviously, they don't want us to like be the second one. They want us to be the first one on
Yeah.
Czechoslovakian scene. So there is really big pressure, and with Eklot being I would say really good nowadays, it's harder and harder.
So do you I was gonna say with this roster, you were saying it was hard not to make a roster change. Do you think it was really good that you guys didn't and that you kept as a five?
I feel like yeah,
Yeah.
because it's there's not a big pool of good players in Czech Republic and then Slovakia that could make the team better. So I think it was good that we didn't make any other roster change than foresee one.
I think that's a good place to end it off then. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for joining us. I think this is you guys are definitely a very promising team to watch out for. And if you guys do make the major, I really can't wait to see you guys like the response from the fans, because this is something that I didn't know about that, for instance. I didn't know that the Czech scene was super involved with you guys. So I wish you the best of luck, and thank you very much, Beastik, for joining us. Thank you very much for contributing your time to the podcast. And I guess we'll see you next year. Do you have any closing remarks you want to say to anyone?
Thanks to all our fans that are cheering for us every tournament. Thanks for your kind words. Even though this season was hard, we still tried our best, and we will make it happen next year. So thank you and bye.
Brilliant.
Perfect. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, man. That was lovely. Thank you very much. And I guess Brandon, that's pretty much us done. It's the first
Yeah.
CCT podcast, and this is us pretty much coming to a close. And I guess for you, any closing words? I've wrapped myself up. And do you wanna, any last words to the fans?
To the fans.
For the fans, to
Yeah,
the
well,
people
the
at
fans
home.
of CCT, right? Look, this is something a little bit different. It was the first episode, but I really enjoyed getting that insight from Beastik. I think that the fact that they're going to have a 7-map pool going forward into 2023 is really exciting, and it's really interesting to not only know about these teams, but also the regional backing that comes behind it as well. I've learned an awful lot, and I hope that the people watching at home have done as well. But as this is being recorded around Christmas, if you are watching it around this time, I hope you have a fantastic close to your year. Happy holidays and all the best in the new year, where we will see you for lots of Champions of Champions Tour action in 2023. Take care, have a good one, and we'll see you all very soon.
A very complicated job, but I love simple things so much. One move, one push. One touch. One love. One click. One XBet.
Win up to $1 million with your CSGO esports predictions. Simply guess the kill scores of the 10 players in a CSGO match. The more you guess correctly, the bigger the prize. You'll need at least 2 correct predictions to win a prize. Guess all 10 correct and win $1 million. Experience the exciting new way to add a little prosperity when watching esports tournaments. And register now to receive a free entry ticket upon sign-up. Predict kills, win millions, prosper.
Trying to get the skin of your dream for a long time but can't get it in any way? On our website, you have a unique opportunity to get your favorite knife. Users on our site can hand out skins themselves, and participants need to fulfill some simple conditions. For example, watch a video or buy a case on our website. After that, you automatically become a member of the distribution. Go to the user giveaways tab and do what you like. Hellcase.